This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 27. What is content curation and why should we care? Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you attract and retain business through the power of quality content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is July 11th, 2013. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for episode 27 of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, we are live on iTunes, so if you're listening to this episode on the blog, you can click on over and subscribe. That means you'll get new episodes automatically delivered to your computer or your smartphone or your listening device of choice. And if you have an Android or other device that doesn't connect to iTunes, we also have an RSS feed, and I will post that link in the blog post. Last week, our topic was summertime, which it definitely is here in the Northern Hemisphere and absolutely here in Texas. And we talked about summertime or whatever time for your business tends to be a slow period. And we shared 10 ideas on how you can fill those long, slow days with some to-dos that will take your content marketing to the next level. So if you happen to miss that episode, feel free to click on over to iTunes or to the RSS feed and get all caught up. So that brings me to today's topic. Today we're going to talk about content curation. This is a term you often see alongside content marketing, and we're going to talk to someone who knows the subject very, very well, and that is Tom George, who is the founder and CEO of the popular content curation site, Internet Billboards. Before I get to our interview with Tom George about content curation, I want to give you a little update on Project Beagle promotion. Now, as I shared last week, our little beagle Hermione, she has been our intern here at Resonance since we brought her home as a tiny, tiny pup in January, and she is going to be up for a promotion pretty soon. She's going to graduate from her intern level. And here's the question: what should Hermione the Beagle's new title be? If you have an idea on what title you would give to Hermione the Beagle, please leave me a comment on the blog, or I've actually set up a landing page where you can make your suggestion online. And the short link for that landing page is bit.ly /promote Hermione, all one word, all lowercase, and that is, so it's bit.ly /promote Hermione. So click on over and let me know what you think Hermione the Beagle's new title should be. Okay, on to business. Now, today we are talking about content curation. And as I mentioned, it's one of those terms you often see alongside content marketing. So it's becoming another huge buzzword in the marketing industry. And if you follow what I do online, you'll notice I do a fair amount of curating myself. And one of the sites that I post on, that I curate on, is a site called Internet Billboards. And this was founded by a gentleman named Tom George, and so I decided when we did a episode about content curation, I would catch up with Tom George and let him explain it. So, without further ado, here is my interview with Tom George, the founder and CEO of the popular content curation site, Internet Billboards. Hey, Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Rachel. It's nice to be here.
Oh, great to have you. So I cannot start our interview without telling the story about how you and I met, virtually anyway. We've never actually shared the same room, but yours was actually one of the first phone calls I received when I opened my office for my business.
I remember. It was amazing.
I got this phone call out of the blue, and you were on the other end saying, "Hey, congratulations! You are our featured business today on Internet Billboards."
I remember.
And as a baby business owner, I was like, "Wow, I'm getting attention!" So
I will never forget that as well.
Absolutely. So, and that was going on 3 years now. So you and I have quite a history together.
We do, and things have changed. Right now, unfortunately, I'm not calling up business owners anymore saying, "Hey, congratulations, you're our featured business." But maybe we should do it again, because it certainly does hype things up. It makes it exciting.
Absolutely. So before we start talking content curation, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Internet Billboards.
Well, sure. My name's Tom George, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart. This is Internet Billboards is actually my second company. My first company was completely unrelated, which is fitness. And I can explain a little more about how things develop with Internet Billboards a little later. But I mean, basically, I consider myself everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and my main strength is vision, and I like to call it futurism, and I believe that I have the ability to see 5 years down the road, and I just kind of felt where the direction where things were heading, and that's why I came up with Internet Billboards.
So how did you get the idea for Internet Billboards? How did you come to get into the content curation business?
The basic idea came to me, believe it or not, when I was promoting my fitness company. In a way, and initially sort of, because it keeps kind of, it kept, kind of morphing and would change. And once I thought I had it figured out, it would turn into something else. So it didn't, it didn't begin where it is right now. But basically, I was online and I didn't have a huge marketing budget and I needed to promote my fitness company. So what I would do is I would actually set up other separate WordPress sites, and I would actually put content on those sites. And what I found is that by doing that, I was actually increasing the exposure and the amount of traffic that I would get from my fitness company through search for specific words. So that it didn't start there.
So let's get into content curation. How do you personally define content curation?
To me, content curation, it has become a significant part of the future of the internet. A curator, is someone who finds, organizes and presents as well as shares, valuable information or content. And as you well know, it's in many forms. It's not just, an article. It's not just text. That's the future that we have to look forward to is, all these different types of content and, transmedia storytelling and all that. But basically they do it on a specific subject or niche, and, they do it in a way, they should do it in a way that provides, some type of a special context or some type of a unique engagement or value proposition for the readers, because if they're not adding any value, then why do the readers need to stop by they can just go directly to the source. So, and over time, when it's done correctly, I mean, it basically should position the curator as an expert in their field, and as a thought leader, and that happens for a variety of reasons, because, curation, when you're staying on top of a subject, is an excellent way to learn. You're always constantly learning about that subject. And then, they should mix, like I was saying, give some of their commentary and interpretations. The main thing about it is that you want to allow the reader to form their own conclusions. So you want to be kind of, you don't want to basically, influence someone in one way or the other. I mean, that's like a good curator to me.
Sounds great. So the practice of content curation is nothing new. I mean, I remember pretty much every job I've had, I was the one, clipping out newspaper articles and circulating them to everybody. But why has curation become such a big deal in recent years?
My personal belief is that we basically have way too many distractions. We have way too many impulses now. We have way too much content. And I think deep down, fundamentally, us as human beings, as much as we're kind of fascinated and enamored at times with technology, I think deep down we understand that, technology is supposed to enhance the quality of our lives. It's supposed to make our lives easier. It's supposed to, you have to remain healthy. So, I mean, basically, I mean, that in my opinion is the main reason, is that people realize it's not so much about the technology and the content anymore. What it's become more about is the relationship, is about the network, is about, okay, why there's a lot of good content. Why should I be reading your content, okay, which is good, when I can be reading this person's content who I happen to know, like, and trust, okay, and is also, I have a different type of engagement with that person. Do you follow me? I mean, that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So that leads me into my next question. What, in your opinion, makes a good content curator?
Well, in my opinion, I think, in some respects, there's some similarities to, like, what would make a good journalist, and I hope I'm not talking out of school, but because I really don't know that much about journalism. But, I mean, to be a good journalist, you have to remain objective, right? You have to report the facts. You have to be courageous. You have to not be afraid to get out there and put it on the line. So, if you're practicing curation, right, from the right perspective, as far as, you really want to, you're like a seeker of the truth, and you really want to help people and give, good information to your audience, that's great. If you're just somebody who's looking to kind of game the system, and you're just looking for a few links, and, you're basically, your real intention is not, to, be like, provide real value. You have some type of an ulterior motive. I think that's the difference between what makes a good curator and what makes a bad curator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So there are some critics out there who say that, these curators, they just want to be content creators, and they're just too lazy to create their own stuff. How would you respond to that critic?
Well, read a few of my articles I've written, so such as, why content curation and crowdsourcing will change everything. That has the latest article I've written. I would like to write more articles, but it's been shared quite a bit. I mean, people must like it, so read a few of my articles and then come back to me and tell me I can't write.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, and I think anyone who has been at this for a while and has taken it seriously knows there is nothing lazy about being a good content curator.
It takes a lot of hard work to be a good curator. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there are quite a few sites out there that promote content curation. There's like Scoop It. There's some other sites, of course, Internet Billboards, and so some of these sites are open for anyone to use. Anyone can curate their content, while on others, like on Internet Billboards, you're very selective about who can curate on their site. So from a consumer standpoint, what's the difference between the two types of sites?
That's an excellent point. It's an excellent question, and hopefully I can answer it for you. See, I mean, I have a vision as the CEO of the company, and that vision of where I want to take the company, okay, and what I want what the value of what I want the value to be for the company. The one thing that I notice, if I can maybe make some type of comparison, okay, between, let's say, Facebook and Internet Billboards, which obviously, Facebook is just this incredible site and this incredible story, okay? But, when I go onto Facebook, I have a hard time now assimilating anything. I have a hard time understanding the user experience because there's just so much information being posted. And oftentimes I wonder if the information is being posted, just simply for the fact to get more likes and to get more shares. So the thing about it is, when I did Internet Billboards, you see, I want to create a network. Okay, and I want to create a network that is really has a high value proposition. So what I don't want to happen is I don't want 5,000 people on Internet Billboards, okay, all posting random information without having any kind of context or connection, because I think that degrades the network. And I think, Facebook, for what it was when it got started, was just amazing. I mean, used as a social network, and I know people people and have friends that use Facebook, as a social network to stay in touch with family and friends and to keep updated, right? I don't think Facebook was ever really meant to be used as a business tool, as this money-making, all-encompassing, platform for that. And I think it just degrades the user experience to allow just, anybody to go on there and to post.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So if I'm hearing about a lot about content curation and I decide I want to be a curator, would it be better to focus all my curatorial efforts on one site, or would I be better off broadening my efforts across several different sites?
Yeah, I think just getting started, you'd be better off just going to one community like Scoop It and just getting started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you see, I mean, for me, myself, as the company scales, I have to wear all these hats. I have to be a community manager. I have to look at technology. There's so many different things that I have to do that I don't really have the luxury right now of just focusing laser beam on one, specific topic
Mm-hmm.
that I'm interested in, and just that's it. That's all I do is curate on that topic. You
Mm-hmm.
follow me?
Yeah.
So for somebody getting started, I would say go to Scoop It. What are you passionate about? What are you in business for? Pick that one topic and that one interest graph, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just curate that. Just laser beam focus on that and just develop the largest possible following that you can on that one topic, and the rest will take care of itself.
Hmm. Okay. And conversely, if let's say I've already got a good content marketing program going, I'm already blogging, I'm doing white papers and articles, and I've got my own stuff going. How does it benefit me to add that content curation piece to my content strategy? What's in it for me?
That's another excellent question. Let's face it, content marketing, which I would love to off the record or some other time to have, a whole different conversation with you about, because I know that's the business that you're in. But let's fit, content marketing is the new advertising.
Yes.
Okay, people, the banner advertising that we've had for God knows how many years is antiquated, it's outdated. People don't really pay that much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, the powers that be, let's face it, I'm just to throw a name out there, Google. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They happen to make an exorbitant amount of money off that whole system. So why would they want to change something that dollars are pouring in, hand over fist? So I guess to answer your question, content right now is the new advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you take the time to produce this high level content, okay, through content marketing, you want it to reach as large of audience as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want it in actuality to be syndicated, and first you want to hit your audience, and then there's these steps that you want to go through to kind of spread that content out to reach the largest audience as possible. Well, curation is kind of like a special relationship between the curator, the author of the content, and the followers that the curator has. Because, getting back to your other question, if let's say I have 80,000 followers that are following my Scoop It page,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I recommend your content, okay, basically what I'm saying is this is worth reading.
Mm-hmm.
Go read this. Right?
Yep.
And so what that's going to do is that's going to equate into more social sharing, okay? It's going to mean more shares on Facebook, more shares on Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. So in actuality, long story short, it's basically going to take, that content and just help you reach a much larger audience than you could reach on your own if you were only just doing traditional content marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it also adds that element of sharing different perspectives and not just your own.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk specifically about Internet Billboards.
Sure.
Your favorite topic, I know. You sound like a proud dad talking about his his baby.
Well, it has been like a child, raising it
Right.
up in the middle of the night, and there has been a lot of similarities there. Trust me.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So we talked a little bit about how it got started, and how do you go about selecting curators for Internet Billboards?
Right now, okay, right now I don't personally make too many selections. Obviously in the initial stages of getting started, I had to kind of create the message and to go ahead and ask people or select people. Um, right now, the way it is right now, I think we have a solid team of curators in place, and so I'm not per se going to someone and selecting them and saying, "Hey, guess what? I think you would make an excellent curator on Internet Billboards." What I'm actually doing is, waiting for people to basically just say, "Hey, wait a minute. What's this whole Internet Billboards thing about? Let me check this out." Right. And so, what I eventually would entail is that, and this is my hope, is that, one day, people will actually want to be a curator on Internet Billboards, and there's going to be, certain criteria or certain things that you're either going to have done or things that you're going to have accomplished or what have you, that, before you're going to be able to be on this platform, and I also envision perhaps a day where, content producers that are producing great content, they're going to be like, "Hey, man, can you put us on the billboards? Can you share, our message on Internet Billboards?" And so this is like the forward thinking aspect of what it takes when you have to kind of look down the road and see the future. You say, "This is where we are now, but this is where I want to be." This is the direction I'm heading. Not so much different than, say, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of LinkedIn Today, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, look, it doesn't really get like on a much grander scale as far as what they're putting together for selecting content, right? For curated content. And I mean, as a business, who wouldn't want to be included in LinkedIn Today?
Sure.
Because that's just gonna amount to a crazy amount of eyeballs viewing your content.
Yeah. So I know you've built this wonderful community of curators. What all is involved in being an Internet Billboards curator? What's that job description look like?
Well, the minimum, editorial requirement is 10 curations a month. Okay, and it's, the editorial requirement is there for a purpose, which is basically because, I have to weed out the people that are basically serious, okay, and want to be a curator, and the people that are just maybe looking to game the system, or they're not really that interested in what's going on, okay, they just maybe want to stick around to see kind of what happens. And so, I mean, as far as what's involved, I mean, really, again, people spend, a vast, I know our curators, they spend a vast amount of time online, okay? They're constantly sharing, reading articles, learning, interacting with their peers, okay? I mean, how long does it take to, you read an article, you like the article, okay, and you decide, okay, this is something I want to curate on Internet Billboards, basically, depending on, how the curator goes about curating it, I mean, they can basically take just a couple paragraphs if they want, okay, and they can curate it, which literally will take less than 10 seconds to put that on there. They can add an introduction if they want, right? They can put a few sentences in. So I leave it up to them. I really don't say, okay, this is how you have to do it, because I don't believe in that. But I do, have some minimum requirements to make sure that, people are on the same page and not just, kind of, trying to game the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that maintaining that minimum of 10 a month is brilliant, because it's so easy to get excited about something, and you curate 20 things in 20 days and then you drop off.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And as it builds out, it's definitely, only going to get better for the people that understand, how to maintain an editorial calendar, which is probably not that much different than in content marketing. You tell someone, look, I mean, you have to have an editorial calendar, and, you can't just say, oh, one day I'm going to create an article, and then, the next day, or maybe I'm going to go 2 weeks and we're not going to do
Mm-hmm.
anything. And then, the week after that, we'll just come up with some article that's completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of alluded a few minutes ago to what your average day is like as CEO of Internet Billboards. You're managing a community, you are managing the technological side of the site, you're curating yourself. What is the average day like for you, or is there such a thing as an average day?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the average day for me is that I'm up very early. I maintain my other obligations that I have with my fitness company, and actually when I'm not training clients, most of the time I'm online. I'm pretty much engaged in one way, shape, or form. You know,
Mm-hmm.
95% of the time, unless I'm either sleeping or
Mm-hmm.
I'm with a fitness client. And so it kind of runs the gamut. I mean, one of the things that is certainly going to help the whole process is, I was kind of kicking around the notion, the idea of maybe trying to find a co-founder,
Mm-hmm.
and have a co-founder who would come in as either the chief information officer or the chief technology officer, and somebody that could basically overtake all the technical, anything that's technical, because that would free up my time, to just do so many other things that I
Mm-hmm.
think would be important. But my average days are 14-hour days, really.
Wow. Wow. So it is like being a new dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Tom, you've built this fantastic site and you built this community of curators, and obviously they enjoy working with you and enjoy working with each other. How do you drive traffic to the Internet Billboard site?
Right now, the main way that we drive traffic is through social sharing, I would have to say. And, um, there's been, so many great developments. Like just for an example, I mean, Google Plus. I know you're a fan of Google Plus,
Yes.
and they've done a stellar job, creating this platform. And there's communities so I look to join, great communities. And if I post something in there that I share from a curator, I mean, it does drive traffic. So the main way that we're driving traffic right now is through social engagement and sharing. And I do have a blogger outreach program and things like that. I think as we continue to grow, and as we get more original content that comes in, we'll focus more on the whole SEO thing and try to drive more traffic that way. And of course, by doing things like this, if I had more time to do more interviews, if I had more time to get into networking things, I mean, we've just scratched the surface. But the one thing is with the internet company, which you have to scale it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the worst thing you can do is to drive a bunch of traffic to a site and then the site crashes.
Yes.
You can't handle the traffic. Or you drive a bunch of traffic to the site and it's not a clear message about what action step you want to take. So, I mean, in actuality, we are getting a fair amount of traffic, but I mean, I really haven't opened the floodgates because there's a couple more things that we need to do before it is going to be ideal to have a ton of traffic.
So speaking of traffic, where does the site stand today? Is it where you had envisioned it at this point, or what's the status?
Yeah. What I have I have real time, analytics that I look at, and to see where the traffic is coming from. And, as far as like unique visitors, I would say maybe right now, if I had to do the math just real quickly in my head, I would say we're maybe only around 10 to 20,000 unique visitors a month. So we're not, some sites like, for example, Scoop It has 7 million. They're at 7 million. But you have to understand, they have a whole team. They have
Sure.
CEO that sold one company for millions and put together an entire team, and they have an entire infrastructure in place to support that amount of traffic. So, but I would say we're just basically haven't even scratched the surface as far as what we're going to have for traffic in the future.
Sure. So if you can get that technology officer in place, that would free you up to go after those other initiatives, right?
Well, yeah, not only that, but I didn't go to MIT. I don't have a degree, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and I've learned a lot. But I mean, what it is what's the server capacity? How is the site interacting with the server? How's it being scaled? Are you in the cloud? Are you on one server? Do you have 5 servers? What type of redundancy do you have in place? What happens if the site crashes? Who's monitoring it? These are all things that, have to be in place before you start thinking about being an enormous, giant internet company. You just can't be one guy, with doing shared hosting and just say, hey, hope everything, works out. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, got it. So recently you introduced an email component to Internet Billboards, and that is I believe it's called the Web Curated. And tell me how that fits into the bigger picture.
I did. Well, this is how it fits into the bigger picture. What I'm, in essence, what the main goal is here is I'm going to build a large interest graph, with Internet Billboards, okay, with specific topics and niches. And the larger, the site becomes, and the more curators there's going to be curators on all these different topics, from, photography to automotive to content marketing to you name it. So, the goal with the Web Curated is to basically say to somebody, what are you interested in? What do you want to get? Are you interested in photography? Okay, you're interested in photography. Okay, well, these are our professional photography curators, okay? And instead of having to go out and, find all this information on photography, they're going to email you, what all the great photography content is, and it's going to be the Web Curated.
And how's the response been?
I mean, the response has been good, but again, it's a question of, building it out. It's a question of, how is the actual email newsletter going out? I mean, does it look professional? Is it right? People kind of, they form their initial opinions, relatively fast, and things have to constantly evolve. You constantly, you can't do something one way and say that's the right way and leave it that way. You constantly have to modify, test, I mean, one thing, for an example, just to give an example, is that there's going to be a new component that's going to be added to Internet Billboards, which is going to basically be a very sophisticated, landing page kind of a system, okay, which is going to have some calls to action, which is actually going to make people want to subscribe to the Web Curated, because people need a reason to subscribe. Yeah. They don't just want to put their email in some little box. I mean, they really need a compelling reason. Why should I give you my trust? Why should I give you my email address?
Definitely. So that brings me to my next question. I know 2013 has been a very busy year for you at Internet Billboards. What get us caught up on what has been released recently and what you see for the rest of 2013.
Yeah, basically, what has been released recently is a very, very significant piece of the puzzle, because the other thing that I want to mention, if you happen to have some business owners out there that are listening to this, is that the Internet Billboards is a duplicatable thing as it stands right now. So somebody could actually have their own Internet Billboards for their company, but it wouldn't be Internet Billboards. It would be their logo. It would be their 7 headliners. It would be specifically just tailored to their industry, to what they do. Okay, and so that would actually be a very sophisticated marketing machine. But one of the biggest developments right now is we actually now have the ability to select a source, and we can select that source, and then we can have the content automatically post to Internet Billboards.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a manual curation. So that's going to open up the doors to a rather rapid expansion, once the infrastructure gets put into place for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, sounds great. So if our listeners would like to know more about Internet Billboards, where can they find you?
They can find us at the internetbillboards.net. Also on Facebook, of course, facebook.com/internetbillboards, and also on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at netbillboards.
All right, wonderful. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today.
Thank you very much for having me. The pleasure was all mine, Rachel.
All right, great hearing about Internet Billboards, and we'll look forward to having you back to talk about more new developments.
Sounds great, and I can't wait to hear the show. I'm really, I'm happy for you. I'm excited about everything you're doing with your podcast, and again, thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tom.
Take care, Rachel.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks again to Tom for sharing his expertise and getting us up to date on content curation today. Again, that URL is internetbillboards.net if you want to check that out and see curations on all kinds of different topics. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For today's tip, I want to come back to the topic of creativity. And this is a topic I come back to fairly frequently on this podcast because as content marketers, it can be really challenging to come up with fresh ideas for content on a regular basis. So we really need to come up with some tricks to keep those creative juices flowing. And one of my favorite tricks is a process called mind mapping. What you do is you take pen and paper, the bigger the paper the better, and write your question or your topic in the middle of the piece of paper. And yes, those are puppies playing in the background. So you write your question or your idea or your problem in the middle of the paper, and then you draw lines leading out from that focal point. And on each line, write one thing that comes to mind. So let's say if your central topic is content marketing, the lines leading out from it might be the different components of content marketing, like blogging, social media, ebooks, things like that. And then from each of those ideas that you've generated, draw lines leading out, and you do the same thing. So let's say you've got content marketing, one of your topics was blogging, and leading out from blogging could be things like WordPress, SEO keywords, writing best practices, things like that. And you keep expanding on idea after idea, and you'll really be surprised what you come up with. Now, I know it's really hard to describe this verbally, so I invite you to go to Google and just type in mind mapping, that's MIND mapping, and then when you get your search results, click on images and you'll be able to see some really great examples, and I'm sure it'll become really clear. Anyway, mind mapping has helped me a lot in terms of generating ideas for my content, and I hope it does the same for you. Okay, campers, that is it for me this week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. And yes, in the last 20 seconds, I've been joined by both puppies here in the studio. So if you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or through our RSS feed. And if you really, really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate getting your recommendation up there. For more information about content marketing, you're welcome to visit our blog at resonancecontent.com/blog, where you'll also find links to our pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other social networks. And if you'd like to email me a question to cover in an upcoming tip of the week, I would love to hear that from you. You can contact me anytime at rachel@resonancecontent.com. And if you'd like for me to come speak about content marketing to your business or your organization, I'm currently promoting a new talk called Content Marketing, Driving Business in a Post-Mad Men World. If you'd like to know more, you can contact me through the website or go to contentmarketingspeaker.net. As always, I like to leave you with a quote, and today's is from P.G. Wodehouse. Now, P.G. Wodehouse is one of my absolute favorite authors of all time. He wrote just a prolific writer, wrote probably hundreds of books over the course of his lifetime, and he's best known for the Bertie Wooster and Jeeves series, and you might be familiar with the BBC series starring Hugh Laurie many, many years ago. But anyway, he was very clever and one of my favorite writers. Anyway, P.G. Wodehouse says, success comes to a writer, as a rule, so gradually that it always comes as something of a shock to him to look back and realize the heights to which he has climbed. And I think you can substitute writer for marketer or business person or just about anything. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing with a pug on my lap, and we will see you again next week. Take care.